Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Now I know what you're thinking. Sai, you've tackled dictators, corrupt corporations, even the horrifying reality of pigeon biohazard disposal units. What could possibly be left? Well, buckle up, because today we're diving headfirst into the surprisingly murky waters of prime ministerial paychecks. That's right, we're talking global leaders, the people entrusted with running entire countries, and just how much they get paid for it. You might think it's all pomp and ceremony, a life of selfless service with little regard for earthly possessions. And you'd be right, at least on the pomp and ceremony part. Those little hats are adorable. But the salaries? Oh boy, let's just say some of these world leaders aren't exactly hurting for pocket change. So get ready to be shocked, maybe a little outraged, and possibly even inspired to dust off that old political science degree as we count down the top 10 richest prime ministers and the surprisingly hefty salaries they command. Let's do this. Kicking off our list at number 10, we've got Lee Hsien Loong, the Prime Minister of Singapore. Now, this is a man who clearly believes in the mantra, work hard, earn hard. And by hard, I mean a cool $2.2 million a year. You heard me right, over $2 million. Now, before you pack your bags and start brushing up on your Singlish, it's worth noting that Singapore justifies this hefty paycheck by arguing that it attracts top talent and prevents corruption. Whether you buy that argument or not, one thing's for sure. Being the Prime Minister of Singapore is a pretty sweet gig, financially speaking. Next up, we're heading down under to the land of sunshine, shrimp on the barbie, and surprisingly well-compensated prime ministers. That's right, at number 9, it's Australia's very own Scott Morrison. While his salary of around $550,000 might seem downright quaint compared to our previous entry, don't let that fool you, our mate Scotty also enjoys some pretty sweet perks, including a swanky official residence in Sydney and a fleet of cars and planes at his disposal. So yeah, while he might not be raking in the millions like some other world leaders, he's certainly not struggling to make ends meet. Coming in at number 8, it's everyone's favourite apologetic neighbour to the North, Canada. Justin Trudeau, the poster boy for progressive politics and perfectly coiffed hair, pulls in a respectable $360,000 a year. Now I know what you're thinking, that's it. For running a country with more moose than people? Well, hold your horses, because on top of his salary, JT enjoys some pretty sweet digs at 24 Sussex Drive. Or at least he will once the renovations are done. A country retreat at Harrington Lake, and let's not forget the use of a private jet. So yeah, life's not too shabby for Canada's top dog. At number 7, we have Angela Merkel, the recently retired Chancellor of Germany. Now, you might expect the leader of Europe's economic powerhouse to be swimming in a vault of euros like Scrooge McDuck. But alas, Merkel earned a relatively modest, by prime ministerial standards, $340,000 a year. But hold on, before you start feeling too bad for her, remember that Germany provides its Chancellor with a pretty sweet benefits package, including a lovely official residence in Berlin and, of course, all the schnitzel and sauerkraut one could ever desire. Coming in at number 6, it's Yoshihide Suga, the Prime Minister of Japan. Now, Japan is known for its workaholic culture, so you might expect their leader to be pulling in some serious overtime pay. And you wouldn't be entirely wrong. Suga earns a respectable $270,000 a year, which isn't too shabby, especially considering Japan's relatively low cost of living for its leaders. Plus, he gets to live in the Kantei, the Prime Minister's official residence, which, let's be honest, sounds way cooler than just the Prime Minister's house. Ah, the United Kingdom, a land of tea, crumpets and a Prime Minister who earns more than a few quid. Boris Johnson, the current resident of 10 Downing Street, rakes in a cool $260,000 a year. Not bad for a job that mostly involves making awkward speeches and dodging scandals, right? But hey, at least he gets to live in a pretty sweet pad, rent-free. Plus, he gets to hang out with the Queen from time to time. Well, maybe not hang out so much as stand awkwardly while she silently judges him. At number 4, we find ourselves in the land of Kiwis, hobbits, and surprisingly reasonable prime ministerial salaries. Jacinda Ardern, the world leader who single-handedly restored our faith in humanity, or at least tried to, earns a relatively modest $250,000 a year. Now, I know what you're thinking. That's less than a hobbit's weight in gold. And you're right, it's not exactly a king's ransom, but hey, at least she gets to live in a country with breathtaking scenery and more sheep than people. Coming in at number 3, it's France, the land of baguettes, berets, and Emmanuel Macron, a man who somehow manages to look both incredibly young and incredibly old at the same time. As the president of France, Macron takes home a respectable $190,000 a year. Now, before you start feeling too bad for him, and let's be honest, it's hard to feel bad for a man who gets to eat croissants for breakfast every day, remember that France also provides its president with a pretty sweet pad, the Élysée Palace, and access to some of the finest wine and cheese the world has to offer. At number 2, we find ourselves in Italy, the land of pizza, pasta, and Mario Draghi, the current Prime Minister. Now, while Italy might be known for its love of la dolce vita, its Prime Minister's salary is surprisingly, well, reasonable. Draghi earns a relatively modest $115,000 a year, which is less than some CEOs make in a month. But hey, at least he gets to live in Palazzo Chigi, a 16th century palace in the heart of Rome. And let's be honest, can you really put a price on living in a country where gelato is considered a food group? And finally, at number 1, we have Narendra Modi, the Prime Minister of India, a country of over 1.3 billion people. Now, you might expect the leader of the world's largest democracy to be raking in the rupees, but surprisingly, Modi earns a relatively modest $30,000 a year. That's right. The Prime Minister of India earns less than a junior accountant in most developed countries, but hey, at least he gets to live in a pretty sweet pad, the 7-Lok Kalyan Marg, and he's got job security for life, right? Or at least until the next election. And there you have it, folks, the top 10 richest prime ministers and the surprisingly diverse range of salaries they command. From the multi-million-dollar paychecks of Singapore to the more modest figures in India, it's clear that there's no one-size-fits-all approach to compensating world leaders. So what have we learned today? Well, apart from the fact that being a prime minister can be a surprisingly lucrative career path if you're in the right country, of course, I think it's important to remember that these salaries are just one small piece of a much larger puzzle. The real question isn't how much these leaders are paid, but how effectively they're using their positions to serve their people. But enough from me, I want to hear from you. Which Prime Minister's salary surprised you the most? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share and subscribe for more thought-provoking and hopefully slightly amusing content. Until next time. Until